Back up and running again for the third of 3 videos in this trifecta of just one long, huge coverage of just more and more vinyl stuff I've picked up in the last 3 months. If I'm not mistaken, what I thought was going to be a 2-part video, which is actually going to be a 3-part video, just because there is so much stuff here. I left off on this really excellent record here from Tir Na Nog called Strong in the Sun. I guess I ran out of capacity on my video there, so I'm back up to wrap up the end of this very long record haul. So if you're still with me, thanks for sticking through just a lot of rambling about a lot of really good music. If you're just tuning in, there are 2 other videos before this, so go and check those out if you'd like. You're more than welcome to comment and share. But I'm just getting through. I wanted to get all this stuff out just to let you guys know what I've been digging, and if there's anything that you might have questions about or would like to know more about, just drop a comment down below. I'd love to get back to you. Yeah, everything's going well. Just a lot of digging, just great records. But you know how it is. You get so much stuff backed up that you gotta eventually talk about it, doing a lot of listening and a lot of reviews and listening to a whole bunch of stuff, and I just got to get this stuff back into my collection at some point. So wrapping up the 3rd part here of a 3-part, what I thought was going to be a 2-part, but a 3-part, just a huge record haul of things I've come across in the last about 3 to 4 months. So there is one more record in the last section of records that I had picked up, a stack that I had picked up after the Tir Na Nog. The same place that I have gotten those records, in that garage from that vendor in northern Michigan that I was covering in my last video. This is a record here by Tony Joe, just called Tony Joe. A really nice folk and country western album that's worth picking up. I love that kind of sound, love that kind of music. So if you're into country western and you know, country and western and I guess country-esque stylings in folk, western folk music, I enjoy that, and Tony Joe is just excellent, so I recommend picking this up. This is Tony Joe White. So Tony Joe White. Alright, so moving on to my last stack of stuff, and this is stuff that I've just picked up, I would say in about the last 3 weeks. So I'm going to put this stuff over here, running out of room. So this stack of stuff is stuff that I've picked up at different record shops in my area, in the Midland, Saginaw, Michigan area, and it's all really great stuff. So I'm just gonna get right in. A lot of these titles are going to be a little bit more, I guess, things that you might be more familiar with. So getting right into it. This is, as you can tell, kind of hard to see, but this is AC/DC Back in Black. This is an embossed cover of Back in Black, an original first pressing. It sounds really nice. Happy to have a first issue of AC/DC Back in Black. Moving along, this is Dave Van Ronk. I mentioned his name in my last video talking about Greenwich Village, folk musicians, him being one of those early pioneers. And this one is just called Van Ronk. This isn't an earlier piece of his musical career. This is more, I would say, 5 or 6, maybe 7 years after his prominence in Greenwich Village. So it's not his most desired stuff, but it still is really cool. Dave Van Ronk, I believe this is 1969 or 1970, just called Van Ronk. Really great stuff. He's not easy to find, so if you find Dave Van Ronk, make sure you pick him up. Alright, moving along. More Sean Phillips. This is his record called Second Contribution. Really great stuff. If you haven't checked out Sean Phillips yet, I'm telling you, this dude is something else. Just a charismatic folk musician. Really interesting approach to how he uses his sound echoes and his vocals and how he integrates that into his acoustic sound. Just an excellent musician. Sean Phillips, this is Second Contribution. More Sean Phillips. This is Furthermore. Another nice early piece of Sean Phillips' career. Good stuff. More Les Dudek. I showed Les Dudek in the first part of this 3-part video. Really nice southern rock and roll musician. Another record of his, and this one is called Say No More. So this one and Ghost Town Parade, which is the record that I showed earlier, are the two that I think you should have. These are really nice records. Les Dudek, this is Say No More. Alright, here's an album you will all know and love. This here is Let It Be by the Beatles. One of the few Beatles albums that I still needed to pick up. This is a really nice pressing on the Apple label. Got it for relatively cheap. There is a little bit of wear on the cover, as you can see up here by the title. But man, you know, I cleaned it up and it looks really nice. So, plays great. Hardly a pop or a hiss on it. It still has some of the sheen on the inner, that nice glossy look on the inner sleeve, and so, or the inner gatefold there. It plays great, and I'm happy to have a very, very nice clean copy of Let It Be. Essential Beatles. Essential Beatles. Moving on, this is Songs of Leonard Cohen. We all know Leonard. God rest his soul. What a wonderful musician. And hard to believe he's just passed. You know, it's just, we're losing so many great musicians. This is the Songs of Leonard Cohen, and by golly, this is a great, great copy on the 2i Columbia label, and this is still in the original cellophane. It is open, but that is the original cellophane. So I was happy to find a nice, clean copy of this. Hardly any damage on the record. It plays wonderful. All right, moving right along. Jefferson Starship and Paul Kantner. This is their first record, Blows Against the Empire. Paul Kantner's wonderful work on this. This is just great. Just a great, great late 60s psychedelic rock. I mean, Paul Kantner was a very creative individual. I love that inner gatefold artwork there. Obviously, he was one of the founding members of Jefferson Airplane, and their incredible record, Surrealistic Pillow, is just one of those essential pieces of you know, American recording history. But this is shortly thereafter, his first project after he kind of left Jefferson Airplane and started doing Jefferson Starship type stuff. So this is Blows Against the Empire. If you're into psychedelia, check this out. Really cool listen. Early Humble Pie. This here is a UK issue of Humble Pie's second record, Town and Country. My favorite Humble Pie record. This one and the one after, simply called Humble Pie, being my two favorite Humble Pie albums. But this is more of an acoustic take on the blues. One of probably the only record in their discography that was more focused on folky country-esque acoustic blues songs. More of an acoustic, softer side of things here from Humble Pie. Steve Marriott is in fine form here. Jerry Ridley and Peter Frampton, the whole gang is here, and this is just great stuff. Highly recommend checking out this album from Humble Pie, Town and Country. Good stuff. Even more Sean Phillips. His first record here. This one's called Contribution. I just can't get enough of this guy recently. So happy to have found and picked up a lot of his earlier work, and not terribly difficult to find. And if you're finding the right ones, this dude just strikes a chord with me. Check him out, Sean Phillips. Filled out, got the last record, one of the last records from this artist's early 70s discography. I was happy to find. Band out of the United Kingdom, out of the UK, called Family. They've done a lot of great stuff. They had a really great album called Bandstand. They had a really nice album called Music in a Doll's House. This one here is called Anyway. This is a live recording of Family. Not their best record. It's a live recording. Some of the audio is a little bit dodgy, but for the most part, it's a really nice live rock record. I'd say it's probably a 3 out of 5 star record. Very nice, and just happy to have it. It's one of those albums that I've been looking for a while, and I came across it for a really good price. So this is Family and their record Anyway. Really stoked to come across a copy of this record. This is Curtis Mayfield and his album Superfly. It's an original issue. The jacket's in great condition. The vinyl's super clean, and it's just excellent. Curtis Mayfield, Superfly. And then I came across this record, and I will say that I was hesitant to buy it just because of the price tag on it. I'm not one to spend a ton of money on like these really high quality 180 gram pressing, vinyl records. I like to get a good deal, and I like to clean stuff up. I like to buy used and just bring things back to life and give them a nice home on a clean shelf. But I bit the bullet, and I spent a little bit more money than what I'm used to on this record just because of its rarity and the fact that I love this artist so much. So happy to have an original copy. This is a second pressing. This is a second pressing, so it's not an original pressing on the Island label, but a second pressing. But still very, very difficult to find. Outside of a re-release in the last few years, very difficult to find anything from this artist. This is Nick Drake and his record 5 Leaves Left. This is a second pressing from 1974, if I'm not mistaken, of his 1968 or 1969, I think it's 1969 album, 5 Leaves Left, his very first record. I would say that this is neck and neck with Van Morrison's Astral Weeks as being one of those acoustic records that just literally blows my mind. One of the most beautiful pieces of music I think I've ever heard in my life. This guy was just brilliant. So devastating that he took his life at such a young age. Very traumatic story of Nick Drake and his life. Was kind of like a schizophrenic individual. I think he suffered from basically was bipolar, and just a really sad story that he went so soon. But Nick Drake and his first record, 5 Leaves Left, so happy to have an original issue of this, or second pressing of this, I should say. It sounds wonderful, not a click on it, and happy that I dished out the money and bought this because I'm just so stoked to have this in my collection. A beautiful piece of music. Alright, and some stuff that I actually bought earlier today. This is a really nice copy of Dave Brubeck's album Time Out from the Dave Brubeck Quartet. Once again, an essential album from 1959, just early jazz, just the foundational jazz albums that you got to have in your collection, and this is one of them. If you're new to jazz, if you're just getting into jazz, and you're looking for a good place to start, check out this album here, the Dave Brubeck Quartet, and their album called Time Out. Got a really good deal on this. It's a stereo copy. It's not one of the more desirable pressings, but at the same time, it's listenable, it's playable, very clean, and just happy to have a nice, clean copy of this in my collection. Really, really happy to have this. Been looking for an original issue on Tamla of this album. The one and only Marvin Gaye and his just absolute classic, What's Going On. So happy to find a copy of What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. That is just, so happy to have this in the collection. And then came across this. This was more of a blind buy. I don't know anything by this artist. Not familiar with him at all. I saw this in a record store earlier today, and I pulled up his name, and I saw some of the musicians that he was playing with. Some of the members of The Who have played with this guy. Some of the members of the Rolling Stones, but I don't know a whole lot about him. And I read a review of this album, and it sounded pretty cool. So this is a guy by the name of Nicky Hopkins. Don't know much about him, but the record cover just kind of intrigued me. They said it sounds a lot like, I'm trying to think of who the heck I can't think. My mind's blank. Too much musical information going on through here. But anyways, wonderful. He's like a classically trained piano and organ player, and I'm not quite sure what to think of this, but it was more or less a blind buy. Nicky Hopkins. This one's called "The Tin Man Was a Dreamer." So if you know anything about Nicky Hopkins, or if you have this record and you think it's really nice, or if you think it's a piece of trash or whatever, if you have any insight opinions on Nicky Hopkins, go ahead and drop it below. I'd love to learn a little bit more about him. But this was kind of a blind buy just because it looked to be intriguing and it wasn't terribly expensive. So Nicky Hopkins, "The Tin Man Was a Dreamer." Alright, moving on to some essential Ian Hunter territory. This is Mott the Hoople and their record, The Hoople. So I've got a copy of All the Young Dudes. This is my second piece of Mott the Hoople in the collection. I'm a fan of Ian Hunter. They're not my favorite band in the world, but I am starting to get a feel for their musical direction, and I figured this would be a great step, a nice album to check out just after getting All the Young Dudes, which I absolutely love. So I think I'll enjoy this. But if you're a fan of Mott the Hoople and there's things that you think I should check out, once again, go ahead and drop a comment below. But this is Mott the Hoople and their album, The Hoople. And I was really excited to find an original first pressing of this on the London label today. The jacket is in rough shape. I think that's why I got such a great price on it. The record itself, there are a couple pops, but nothing that is audibly distracting from the music. But I got a really, just happy to have a first pressing of the Rolling Stones and their album Let It Bleed. So many times you'll come across this record and you're going to pay big bucks for it just because it's considered one of the greatest albums of all time. But I came across this. There's a little bit of tape on the bottom of the jacket. There is some ring wear. There's some damage. Little bit of damage on the top here, but at the same time you can't listen to the cover, and the guy even took it out and said, "Hey, I'll play it in the store for you." So he dropped a needle on it while I was digging through some records at the store today, and I thought, man, that sounds pretty dang good. So being that I paid very little money for this, I'm happy to have a London pressing of Rolling Stones' Let It Bleed. So alright folks, that is it for me. That is the third part of a 3-part massive vinyl community, or VC haul, just a gigantic record haul here in Michigan of things that I've picked up in the last 3 months, 4 months or so. Sorry for blabbling on so long. It's been about an hour and a half of me talking about nothing but music. But thank you for tuning in and sticking with me. If you made it through all 3 parts of this video, congratulations to you. If you get to these at later times, and like I said, if you have any questions or comments, please go ahead and drop them below. I'd love to, respond to you and stay in contact with any and all VC or vinyl community or YouTube members. So go ahead and subscribe if you haven't to my channel. I try to get on and make videos when I have the time. It was nice that I had a little bit of time today to hop on the VC and make these videos. Hope all is well to everyone out there in the vinyl community. Keep spinning those black discs. Keep supporting your local record stores. Keep buying hard copy music and keep that old media alive. It's very important that we do so. Cheers, rock on, and I'm sure I'll be on with even more records that I collect here in the future. The record collection is getting larger, and it's a great hobby. So anyways, enough blabbling. Take care, and I'll be talking to you all soon. All right, bye-bye.